Hey guys, welcome to Roblox Master Builders. My name is Mr. Kamsaki, and today we're going to be reviewing the submissions for the Post-Apocalyptic racing competition for May. Thanks to everyone who submitted. You guys are awesome. I know there were a couple of people who were intending on submitting but didn't get to it. Just remember that this is something great that one of the submitters said, and I forget who, but who's basically like, even if I don't win, it's okay because I really grew during this experience, and I'll put it on screen actually if I find where he said it. But I think that's really great because, yeah, there's only going to be 1 to 3 winners who get a prize, but you should always just submit into the contest anyway. It's going to be a great growing experience for you, and who knows, maybe you will win sometime. So without further ado, let's go ahead, and here is just for reference the rubric and guidelines that we used for this contest. I won't be talking about the scores that people got here, but I will say who won, and I'm just going to be going through the submissions and reviewing them in the order that they were submitted. So there's that, if you want to pause and take a quick look at that. Alright, and the first thing that was submitted was by Jay Crimson, and this was not his actual submission. He submitted something else, which you'll see on the next slide. But this is his, it looks kind of like a moon rover, except it's got a gun on top of it. He didn't have a description with it, so I don't know too much, because I didn't really ask. But what I like about this model is you can see in the top left photo that the wheel is not making contact with the ground, and they're kind of uneven. And that really shows motion in kind of a cartoony way, which I think is really cool. And then the gun on top is something you would, stand on top and use to mow down zombies. So it's kind of like, it's almost like the warthog from Halo in a way. And then we've got some cacti around, some low poly. He's got the environment around, which is a great thing to do. I like it when I can't see a base plate or empty space, which is done very well. He's got a top view, which I think is always good to include. In fact, in the description of this video, I will link my own back when the coronavirus and quarantine started. You might have heard that toilet paper went out of stock. So I actually built a little warehouse scene where somebody's hoarding toilet paper, and I'll link that tweet. It's on Twitter. I'll link that in the description here so you can see my 3 images and how I kind of did it, where I have a top-down neutral lighting kind of scene, and then I had one with the lights on and it's night outside, and I had one with the lights off and it's daytime from different angles. Yeah, I think the 2 images on the top, that's where I put them for this presentation, but I think they're a little too much the same, honestly. But so I would say this is 2 angles, but I do like the angles that he did choose. And then on the left, you can see this logo that he created. You might have been wondering about that. That wasn't part of the contest, but that was just something he kind of created that I wanted to show, and I thought it was really cool looking. So let's go to his actual submission, and I'll go ahead and read his description, and I put the emojis in there too. The desert chase. As fate derived humanity to a tragic destiny, the world came to ruin. The above render shows how desperate humanity has become in harsh times like these. The milk bucket, the truck, holds, like the name suggests, a vast amount of milk. Milk being the equivalent to modern-day gold. A Western punk tries to take over the milk bucket all by himself. Tragic story for tragic times. Now, I am going to say that you'll see a submission later that this idea was actually, using a word from his description, derived from, and I figured out who posted it initially, but we'll go see that in a minute. I also put his logo down on the bottom left again. But let's just look at this. So I do like the angles selected here. I really like the one on the top left. That's very cinematic, where you don't feel like you need to show the entire object, but you framed it in a very cinematic way. I really like that. And then the larger image on the bottom really just shows the whole scene and what we put in there. And then the one on the top right, I don't really see a point for, but it is just another angle that shows the entire scene. It is cutting a little bit off. Now, I did trim the sides of these photos, Maybe the top left one I didn't trim at all, but I didn't trim the top or the bottom, so that's kind of cutting off the car there. And I would say that framing might have been a little poor, but overall this is pretty good. I like the mesh. It's still in a low poly style. It's the fun, simple character. I like how in a cartoony way it just shows gesture with the character there hanging out of his car. It's funny that his hand is not even on the wheel. It's like he's fully out of his car. Like, I don't know how he's doing that. He's like driving with his feet or something, but yeah, I like that. It's pretty good. I like your models, your vehicle models. A great amount of detail for the low poly style, so really good. The scene does feel a little bit empty. I think you could have added the cacti back and added some more on the edges. However, we know in a desert scene it is kind of empty in itself, so to kind of show that you did put effort into the environment, I would put like sand particles. The top left looks like it has particles in it, or at least has some post-processing effects, which makes it so cinematic. I love how you did that. So then the other images I think could have just some static sand particles shooting up from behind the wheels, and that kind of completes the scene without having to stray from that kind of empty desert look. And then I also noticed something that was a little strange to me. Like, the sand particles would show motion, but I'm also assuming that they're speeding pretty fast here, because this is like a kind of like a chase scene. And the rock, there is a rock positioned. I just barely noticed this actually. There's a rock positioned behind the assailant's car, which is kind of physically that is very strange, because did he just like speed through it, or did he just like steer? Which if he just steered around it, like kind of veered around it, then I would want to see the car at kind of a different angle, or drifting, and so we could see particles showing the motion there. Like if he was drifting to the side, then the particles would be sticking out the other side, kind of like that. And then if we could even have like some decals or particles where the tracks, where they came from, that even completes the scene even more. So pretty good job. Let's go ahead and go on to the next scene. This one was submitted by Aspectful, or Aspeci, and I'll go ahead and read the description. By the way, I didn't edit the descriptions at all, so it's their own grammar. No problem with that. I'm just saying I didn't edit it at all. I've added elements of the other I made and made it better. So that's because he was actually working on another thing, which he didn't actually submit in the channel, so I didn't feature it, but he really worked hard on this. I'm really proud of him. Yeah, Respectful, he's the one I'm pretty sure who said that he grew during this experience. So that is pretty awesome, and that's really one of the biggest points of having these contests. So let's go ahead and finish his description. It now fits in with the actual contest theme, so post-apocalyptic racing. So we were just combining racing and then post-apocalyptic. I told them it doesn't have to be zombies. It's fine if you do zombies, but apocalypse is basically the end of the world, so it can be anything. But he did zombie racing here, you can see. Actually, let me finish the description before I comment. Everything here was made by me except for the zombies. This is basically a mix of the gladiators and races and zombies. Nice. Altogether, it makes zombie racers. This contest has made me learn a lot about how to build, and I'm grateful for participating. Okay, there it was. I forgot. That was actually part of his submission comment, which I'm really grateful for that comment, because that really just encourages people to submit for the sake of growing and having the experience of it, rather than just being like, oh, I really want to win if I don't win. Because look, the more, like, only 1 or to 3 people is going to win. And if the only reason you're submitting is because you want to win, then you have a high chance of being disappointed. It's a contest, but at the same time, it isn't about who's better. It's about how can I make the best thing and push myself and push my skills. So I really like how he just worked really hard to make something. And as far as the images, so I'm just gonna give some light commenting on this. I think you could capture without the studio UI in it for your submissions. And also the angles are pretty much the same. I think it's great to have a zoomed out view of the entire scene. However, I can see the sky in the background that kind of de-immersifies me from the scene itself. I would like to see some up close. Like, I can't really see the zombies. That's why for some of these contests we've been saying post 3 images, because that allows you to, you know, focus in on a couple of important elements. And then if you would go, like, remember we were talking about Jay's submission where that one cinematic photo where he basically didn't assume he had to show everything. That's why you can submit multiple images, because that one image was very cinematic because it was kind of zoomed in, it was kind of cropped. So it's okay if you want to focus in on something and not show everything else. I'm pretty sure I see some destruction in there with the starting line. You see the overhead thing with the go light on it. It's kind of like dilapidated, it's like falling apart. So I like how you added that destruction. I see obstacles around where the zombies are gonna get impaled on some spikes and stuff. So that's kind of cool. It's funny how there's zombies that are like running outside the track. It's like they are just dumb and they don't know how to stay on a track. Good job, thanks for submitting. Let's go on to the next one, Mr. Fake. And this was the winner for obvious reasons. Now he did only submit one image, but he only needed one image to really show this. Like, I think he could have like maybe zoom into the guy's hand holding onto the side of the bus, or zoom into the guy who's holding a gun. I like that pose, the guy standing on top of the bus. And I like the assailant dude. So this is where Jay got his idea. I figured that out. Chicken and the egg. This was the first one. And he even copied some of the description, quite obviously. But, so that kind of takes off some points for creativity. But you still submitted something in the contest and it was high quality. So, but yeah, I like this image. Let's go ahead and read the description. Rust Bucket's doom and gloom. As destiny derived humanity to a tragic fate, a 3-member rebellious gang seek out for survival as the world collapses into an apocalyptic setting. They would scavenge out for supplies and food for their survival, using their only transport, Rust Bucket, the school bus. And you see the letters have been taken off, and instead of school bus, like you see the S and the H were taken off around the C, so it says cool bus, which I really like. And it's rusty, so that just makes it so rugged. And then I love how he added this environment. I know where he got those models. He created those for his Inception showcase, which we featured in episode 2 of Show Off Your Creations. So if you haven't seen that, go watch that. So it's like just these like dilapidated buildings. It just kind of creates a surreal feeling because they're all just like clustered together. And I like that, like, it's great because it's just like a basic background and the detail is focused on the actual scene. I like the cinematic angle. You can actually see the lines on the sand. He's got some lighting, and it looks like some almost like God rays or particles. I think it's just because he's really good at doing lighting. I like the sky he added that, and it's just like everything in the scene just really matches really well. It's super cohesive. Once again, I think same with Jay's. I think there could have been some sand particles being kicked up to kind of show motion and show that we're actually driving on sand. But that's really the only pointer I have for this. Is just the poses are great, the building is great, just everything is pretty awesome. So props to you. He won the contest, so really good job. Rocket Bullet Boy, I'm glad you submitted. I mean, he admitted he could have done more for this, but at least he submitted something. This didn't really scream to me post-apocalyptic racing, but it's good building. Like the buildings, I'm pretty sure this is stuff that came from his Phantom Forces maps he was making. So I think that is recycled assets. I apologize if I'm wrong about that, but let's go ahead and read his description. Idea was to have the entire parking garage be a survivor camp hosting the race. A finish line strung between the parking garage and the building across it. Spectators from the sky bridge, a few boyos. So I don't see the spectators. I kind of see the beginning of the scene you were trying to create. I'm glad that you attempted to make something and at least submitted something, so that's perfectly fine. And then the last one, NM, or Nemerdo, I think I said that right, or just Merdo. He had 2 images, one with the effect and one without. And let's go ahead and read his description. I'll say this before I read the description. The image itself doesn't scream the theme to me, but he created an amazing story, and I'm really excited to read this to you. Basically, the driver was in the last place in the race, and he got ambushed by zombies. Oh, shoot, I forgot to add that emoji. Man zombie. My fault. But wait, it wasn't actually a race. It was a group of people riding away from zombies. That's funny. It's like a stampede, and then he assumed it was a race and started racing. Maybe it's like the zombie apocalypse is starting and he didn't notice. This guy was too slow and couldn't escape the zombies and was eaten. All that was left of him was his grandfather's lucky sword that he used to fend off enemies during these dark times. And wow, such a deep and touching story for such a light contest. So I really liked that he added that. I liked the post-processing effect of the light. I thought that was a really nice touch. I didn't really recognize what the forms are here in this image, but I'm pretty sure it's a crashed car. And then the lighting is pretty good, consistent, kind of low-res texture on the landscape there, but yeah, he's doing pretty good. He's getting better at modeling a lot, and if you go to episode 2 of Show Off Your Creations, you'll see some GFX that he created, so I would recommend going and checking that out. I thought it was pretty good, and I will say, I found out afterward that every guy in that image is missing a leg, and I didn't even notice until he pointed it out, so that was kind of funny. So when you go through and watch that again, you can kind of see that they're all one-legged. So yeah, so that's all for Post-Apocalyptic Racing, the May contest. The next contest theme has already been announced. Go onto the YouTube channel here, RMB, and check out the trailer. It's a horror-themed contest, so go check that out. If you're viewing this in the month of June and you're not in the Discord server, join the Discord server and participate in the contest. If you are a member of the Discord server, please join the contest, even if you don't think you can build well. Also, there is room for scripters. We'll probably start to have scripting contests too, if you guys request it. But because it's called Master Builders, doesn't mean it's limited to people who do 3D stuff. So please present whatever you have. Scripting, GUI, basically anything else that has to do with game design in some way. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Oh no, I'm just kidding. And stay tuned for future content.